I was an astronaut, dormancy for years, when the ship suddenly yanked me away. Before I could even process what was happening, it auto-printed a spacesuit right onto me. The next second, the whole emergency escape pod ejected. I looked back just in time to see a massive meteor shower tearing my ship apart. All the crew pods were jettisoned, programmed to land on the nearest planet. Watching the ship explode right in front of me, my pod started its emergency descent, but we were dropping too fast. Dozens of pods exploded on the way down. I didn't escape the chaos either. My stabilizer wing got ripped off, and my pod went into a death spiral. All I could do at that point was pray I'd make it to the ground alive. I hit the surface hard. Luckily, it was sandy terrain. The pod skidded, but held together. I just ended up with some minor injuries. I tried hailing command on the comms, but got nothing but static. With no other option, I smashed the window, ready to head out and look for survivors. But halfway out, the pod tipped over. A piece of jagged glass sliced right through the oxygen suit on my abdomen. Panic hit me like a truck. That oxygen was my only lifeline. I fumbled for my nano repair kit and sealed the tear, but in that short burst, I'd already lost 60% of my oxygen. I was completely stunned. I'd lost half my life before even starting. I barely had time to process my bad luck. Before the pod's electrics caught fire, I had to get out. Now, I scrambled out like crazy, escaping just before the whole thing blew. Stepping outside, I got my first stroke of luck. My AI assistant pinged the main ship's wreckage. If I could get there, I could get home. But when I looked up, I watched the main ship slam into the planet. The impact was devastating. My one ticket home was gone in a fireball. The shockwave from the crash nearly took me out too. While I was still reeling from that, my AI assistant decided to share some good news. This planet had never been visited by humans. As the first person here, I had the right to name it. I was so frustrated. This wasn't a smart assistant. It was the opposite of helpful. Just as despair was really setting in, I saw a flicker of light in the distance. Maybe, just maybe, there was another survivor. If I could find them, we could pool our resources. I started broadcasting a signal on all channels and headed towards the light. Halfway there, I spotted another escape pod. My heart soared. I rushed over, but the astronaut inside was long gone, mummified, and his spare oxygen tanks were shattered. Useless. False hope. It cut deep. I pushed on, forcing myself towards the light, but I didn't see the marks on the pod I'd just left. It wasn't damaged by the crash. The deep gashes on its roof were like nothing I'd ever seen. After pushing through a dust storm, I finally reached the source of the light. To my amazement, it was artificial. There was another human here. I walked up, asking him what he was up to. He was just as surprised to see me. He was the ship's engineer, he said. After he crashed, he had no signal, so he'd set up this transmitter array, trying to hail Earth for help. Hope flickered back to life. I started helping him set up the gear, but as I turned to connect the power, something massive lunged from the shadows and snatched the engineer away. I had no idea. I turned back, and he was just gone. I thought he was messing with me, but the transmitter was ready. I hit the button, beaming the signal to Earth. Then I prepared to leave. Rescue was at least 6 months out. I needed a base, somewhere to survive until then. The wreck of the main ship was the obvious choice. I had my unhelpful assistant plot a course and started moving. Suddenly, a woman's voice crackled through my earpiece. Another survivor. She said her name was Amy. She was trapped in her pod and needed help, but when she sent me her coordinates, my heart sank. She was on the far side of the main wreck, in an unmapped, unknown area. Going there was a huge risk. My oxygen was critically low, but I couldn't just leave her. Despite the danger, I decided to go for it. If I could reach her, she had spare oxygen. We could both make it. So I changed course, heading into the dark, unknown terrain. It was pitch black. Amy kept talking to me, her voice a comfort, telling me not to be scared. But as I walked, a cold dread crept in. The ground was pockmarked with strange holes, like enormous footprints. Following them, I saw what looked like webs, but gigantic, covering the rocks. Was there something living here? I was terrified, but my oxygen was too low to turn back. I had no choice but to push forward. Then, a blur of movement. I killed my light and fired a flare. What the light revealed sent a chill down my spine. A colossal, terrifying creature. I ran for my life. It gave chase, relentless. Even when I scrambled into a narrow crevice, it kept coming, its claws reaching for me. I ran blindly, fueled by pure terror, until the ground vanished beneath me. I fell. Somehow, I survived the fall. Just 3 broken ribs. I picked myself up, dusted off. But the bad news? My suit was torn again. I patched it, but my oxygen was now down to 12%. This was it. No more time. I had to get to Amy and her oxygen. Now, I ran at full speed. This area was littered with crashed pods. I saw another survivor up ahead, but before I could even react, the creature appeared and took him instantly. The horror of it froze me to the bone. I tried to slip away unnoticed, but then I saw them. More of the creatures. A whole pack. I was surrounded. Amy, thinking fast, started sending signals to the pods around us. The flashing lights distracted them. I bolted, running for my life. But on open ground, I was no match for them. They were on me in seconds. I was sure I was done for. But then I stumbled into a patch of thick fog, and strangely, the creatures stopped. They wouldn't follow. I was confused, wondering what they were afraid of, when the ground erupted beneath me. A massive form shot up and wrapped around me. Now I knew what the other creatures feared. It started pulling me down into the earth, pulling me under. I wasn't up to my head, when Amy's voice crackled through my earpiece one more time. "Use your suit's electric shock," she yelled. I fumbled for the control and activated it. A jolt of energy surged through the creature. It released me immediately, and I was free. I didn't wait. I scrambled into a nearby cave, desperate to escape. The cave was glowing with strange, beautiful light. It was full of what looked like small creatures, but as I passed, they reacted to my presence. They flared with intense heat. I was overwhelmed. I burst out of the cave, gasping, finally able to breathe. This planet was a nightmare, but through it all, Amy's pod was just ahead. On my last fumes of oxygen, I made it. "Hey," I said, prying open her hatch. Her leg was trapped. That's why she couldn't escape. I grabbed her leg drag and pulled hard, finally freeing her. We were crammed together in the tiny pod, and despite everything, there was a moment of connection. Looked like we'd have each other's backs while we waited for rescue. I swapped to her spare oxygen, and we geared up to head for the main ship. It would have the supplies we needed to survive for months. It felt like things were finally looking up. Then we heard it, a sound from above. We looked up. Dozens of the creatures were converging on us. We ran. We didn't stop running until we reached the main ship's airlock and slammed the button to close it. We were in. Safe. Finally, we searched the ship. The cargo bay was intact, full of oxygen tanks, and the food supplies, enough to last 10 years. Relief washed over me. We had everything we needed. But then we saw it. A trail of blood on the floor. A cold feeling formed in my stomach. We followed it with our eyes, and there it was. One of those creatures. It was already inside the ship with us. We tried to hide in the cargo bay, moving silently. But this one was different. It could sense us somehow. A desperate game of cat and mouse began. We used the cargo containers for cover, constantly moving. But we knew, if we didn't stop it, it would eventually get us. Then I saw it. An emergency escape pod, mounted on the wall. A crazy idea formed. I told Amy to keep it distracted. I climbed up to the pod. Inside, I primed the system for launch. These things eject with enough force to travel for kilometers. The impact would be significant. I waited, watching Amy draw the creature into position. The moment it was in the line of fire, I hit the launch button, turning myself and the pod into a projectile. Direct hit. The creature was destroyed, and somehow, cushioned by the pod's interior, I survived. The crisis was over. Outside, the alien sun was rising, looking so much like Earth's. And for the first time, I could breathe. Amy and I, we could finally start figuring out this new life together.